The wind swept across the dry Texas plains, carrying with it the sound of hooves long before the man himself appeared. Dust spiraled up like ghosts, and the old ranch at the edge of the valley seemed to shrink under the weight of the approaching rider. Inside the wooden cabin, a girl named Clara May held her breath as the echo of that steady gallop grew louder, closer, unstoppable. Everyone in town knew who he was. Elias Carter, the richest cowboy this side of the Rio Grande. A man whose name carried both wealth and warning. They said he never smiled, never forgave, and when he came riding, it was always to collect something owed, money, land, or blood. Clara's father, Thomas May, sat in the corner of the cabin, his hand trembling around a chipped glass of whiskey. His debts had become the talk of every saloon. Cards, horses, women, he'd gambled away everything except this fragile house and his only daughter. "Pa," Clara whispered, her voice breaking, "you promised you'd fix this." Her father didn't look at her. "Ain't no fixin' with men like him, Clara. You just keep quiet." The creak of leather and the heavy clink of spurs outside the door made the air turn cold. Then came a knock, slow, measured, like the ticking of a clock before hanging. Thomas stood, his boots scraping against the floorboards. "Mr. Carter," he called, trying to sound brave. The door opened without waiting for permission. Elias Carter filled the doorway like a shadow come to life. Tall, broad, dressed in black with a silver-buckled hat that gleamed even in the dim light. His eyes were sharp and unreadable, the kind that didn't look at a man, they measured him. "Thomas May," he said, his voice low and smooth. "I've come for what you owe." Clara felt her chest tighten. She'd never seen him up close before, and now that she had, she wished she hadn't. He wasn't handsome in a gentle way. There was a harshness about him, like a man carved from the desert itself. Thomas swallowed hard. I just need more time." Elias stepped forward, boots thudding against the floor. "Time's been up for 3 months. I warned you. Please, I'll pay. Just." Elias raised a hand. "You've said that before, but you've run out of luck, and I don't play games." His gaze shifted, to Clara. She froze under it. Elias's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "Is this your daughter?" Thomas moved instinctively in front of her. "She ain't part of this." "Everything you own is part of this," Elias replied evenly. "And right now, that includes her." The word struck like a gunshot. Clara's breath caught in her throat. "You can't," Thomas barked, his voice cracking with desperation. Elias tilted his hat down slightly. "I can take whatever settles your debt. A man pays one way or another." For a moment, no one spoke. The wind howled through the cracks in the door like a whisper of judgment. Clara stepped forward, trembling. "Sir, please." Elias looked at her fully for the first time. Her hands were rough from work, her face pale from fear but beautiful in a quiet, innocent way. Not the kind of beauty that begged attention, but the kind that made you pause without understanding why. Elias's jaw tightened. Something inside him hesitated. He turned to Thomas again. "You've got nothing left, old man. But maybe she's worth more than you ever were." Thomas lunged forward, his fist flying. Elias didn't even flinch. He caught Thomas's wrist mid-swing, twisted it until the man cried out, then shoved him back into his chair. Clara screamed, "Stop, please." Elias turned toward her, his voice like gravel but softer now. "You care for him that much?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face. He studied her a long moment, then said, something no one expected, "Come with me." The cabin fell silent except for Thomas's ragged breathing. "What?" Clara whispered. Elias's expression didn't soften, but his voice did. "Your father's debt dies with his daughter under my protection. You come with me, willingly, and no harm comes to him." Thomas looked up, shocked. "No, Clara, don't you." Elias silenced him with a glare. "It's her choice." Clara's world spun. She wanted to scream, to run, to hide. But what choice did she have? Her father had ruined everything. And this man, this dangerous, unreadable man, was offering a way out. After what felt like a lifetime, she whispered, "I'll go." Elias nodded once, sharply. "Pack your things." When she turned to leave, Thomas grabbed her hand, his voice breaking. "Clara, don't do it. I ain't worth it." She looked at him with sad eyes. "You're my father." And with that, she walked out into the setting sun. Dash, dash, dash. The trail was silent except for the steady rhythm of hooves. Elias rode in front, and Clara followed on a smaller mare he'd brought. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in blood and gold. "Where are you taking me?" she finally asked. "My ranch," he said simply. "North of Dry Creek." She frowned. "Why me?" He didn't answer. When they stopped to rest by a small campfire, she couldn't hold it in any longer. "You could have taken land, livestock. Why me?" He glanced across the flames, his face half lit, half shadow. "Because I don't trust men to pay me back. But you," he paused, staring into the fire, "you looked like someone who don't lie." Clara didn't know what to say. "I don't intend to harm you," he added quietly. "But I ain't letting you go until your father's dead is square." "And how long will that take?" "Depends," he said, his eyes blending in the firelight. "On how much you're worth." She looked away, tears burning her eyes. That night, as Elias slept near the fire, she watched him. He looked peaceful in a strange way, not cruel, not monstrous, just haunted. There was something buried deep in him, a hurt he never spoke about. Weeks passed. At his ranch, Clara became a shadow in his vast house of wood and silence. She cooked, cleaned, tended horses. Elias barely spoke, always busy with his men, but sometimes she'd catch him watching her, not with desire but something deeper. Something he didn't understand himself. One night, a storm rolled in. Lightning cracked the sky, and thunder rattled the windows. Clara ran outside to pull the horses under shelter, but one broke loose. Without hesitation, Elias ran after her. Rain drenched them both, wind howling through the valley. She slipped into mud, and he caught her, his arms strong and steady around her waist. Their eyes met through the storm. "You could have been killed," he said, his voice rough. "You could have let me fall," she shot back. He stared at her for a moment that felt endless. Then, softly, he said, "I don't want you hurt." The way he said it made her heart pound. As the days turned into months, the unspoken tension grew. He started teaching her to ride better, to shoot, to work with the horses. He never touched her, but sometimes his gaze lingered longer than it should. Then one night, everything changed. A group of outlaws, the very men her father owed before Elias, rode onto the ranch. They came for revenge, and they wanted her. Elias stood in the doorway with his rifle, face hard as steel. "Get behind me," he ordered. Clara tried to protest, but before she could, the gunfire started. He fought like a man with nothing to lose, fast, fierce, fearless. The outlaws didn't stand a chance. When the smoke cleared, 3 bodies lay in the mud, and Elias stood bleeding from a bullet in his shoulder. Clara ran to him, catching him before he fell. "Elias, stay with me." He gritted his teeth. "You need to go. I'm not leaving you." She tore fabric from her dress to press against the wound. He looked at her, his voice breaking through the pain. "Why are you crying? I'm the devil that took you." She shook her head. "No, you're the man who saved me." For the first time since she'd met him, Elias smiled, just barely. "Guess your father's debt's paid now. Then I'm free," she whispered. He nodded weakly. Free as the wind, but she didn't leave. Instead, she stayed, through the long nights of his recovery, through the silent mornings on the porch, through the slow, quiet healing of 2 broken souls. One morning, as the sun rose over the ranch, she walked out to where he stood watching the horizon. "You still think I should leave?" she asked softly. He turned, eyes steady on hers. "You don't owe me a thing, Clara." She smiled faintly. "Maybe not, but maybe, I want to stay anyway." For a long time, he said nothing. Then he reached out, slow, uncertain, and took her hand. The same hand he'd once taken as a claim now felt like a promise. "Then come with me," he said again, his voice softer this time. "Not as debt, as choice." And for the first time since that fateful day, Clara didn't feel like something taken. She felt like something found. The wind blew across the plains again, carrying the scent of rain and the sound of new beginnings, the kind that only come when 2 wounded hearts finally meet halfway between mercy and love. And somewhere in the distance, the ghosts of old debts faded away with the dust.